like Jade is always refining the products that make Cantha a more accessible, advanced nation. With creative and thoughtful design, the same technology used in Jade mechs can almost fit in the palm of your hand. Say hello to your new adventuring companion. We all have different needs, so you can customize your J-Bot with a module. Let them speed up your skiff, energize your mount, recycle items, scavenge for you, and more. Equip it with a robust power core, and your bot can even enhance your vitality. Your Jade bot will always be there to give you a boost, save you time, and pick you up when you're down. It's great company when you just want to take in the view. Make a little room in your heart for Jade bots. They'll be available to unlock and customize soon.
Happy Friday and welcome to Guild Chat. I'm your host Ruby and I am so glad you're here with us today to talk about Jade bots. Real quick, before we get into that, I just want to point to the adorable plush griffin that you saw during Countdown and the siege turtle pin just in time for Cantha. The new for fans by fans items are available at Good Smile now, so you can get that little extra addition of real life preparation for End of Dragons before we go live. All right, that said, we are going to talk about Jade bots today. All of us here at ArenaNet have been so excited watching how much you all were interested in the Jade bots and how cool you thought they were. I also have been watching all of your questions and keeping track of them. Hopefully today we're going to answer as many of those as we can because we're going to give you a step-by-step walkthrough of everything these little helpers can do, what you can use them for, and how you get them. So with me today are our two guests to help me do that walkthrough. Let's start with Indigo. Hey, hi.
Hi, I'm Indigo. I was the narrative owner for the new Kindang map, and I also helped with a bunch of the systems-oriented things for End of Dragons, like the Elite specs, and most importantly, the Jade babies that we're going to talk about today, rather the Jade bots more professionally.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. And Ben also, hi. Thanks for joining.
Hey everyone, I'm a design manager here at ArenaNet, and I was part of the team that worked on Jade bots.
All right, thank you both for being here, and thanks to all of you for hanging out with us. Let's get started with what exactly Jade bots are. Indigo, why don't you kick us off from the lore side of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of a high overview for our new viewers too. I'll not only go about bots, but Jade technology as a whole in Cantha. So where we're standing right now, where Ruby and I are in the game, are the first guarded of the Fight Thought, which is one of the most uppermost layers of New Kindang City, which might sound a little ritzy, and it is. This is a trade show / tech demo for Jade Jade. This area is one of our renown hearts, which are activities that the player can do to learn different mechanics, and we'll chat about that a little bit more in a bit, but this one specifically focuses on Jade bots. A quick high overview of Cantha tech and Jade bots before Ben dives in. As we've been teasing a pinch, and as some of you might have noticed during the Kindang live stream last week, the Empire is filled to the brim with Jade technology. Jade is a tech mogul of the world, and it's going to be introducing a lot of really cool new things to Tyria. All of this tech is powered by a resource called Dragon Jade, which is magically infused Jade left over from an event called the Jade Mending Guild Wars Factions, which happened when Shiro Togashi was killed, and he basically petrified everything in sight. Really tragic event. Definitely recommend reading up on it. We'll learn a little bit more of it in introduction. But Dragon Jade powers just about everything you see in Cantha New Kindang. There are holo projectors telling you the news, zip lines, wink, 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 wink. We'll talk about those in a second. Giant whale holograms that Ruby, Connor, and I screamed about last week, and a bunch of other super necessary innovations that are meant to help kind of streamline the day-to-day in Cantha. But speaking about the day-to-day, Jade bots, they're great, they're cute, they're my favorite thing in the world, they're just adorable, but most importantly, they do aid the day-to-day of the Canthans. Now, as posed in Kindang, Jade tech can be extremely expensive, though getting your own bot is not. It's time to story, we'll talk about that in a second. But for the people of Cantha, it can be a pretty hard technology to obtain, and it's often found in some of the richer districts as we travel up into Kindang. You'll see them in Equitable, you'll see a couple in Jade C and Xingjie as well. But they're used for all sorts of things. They're namely used for public transportation. They're kind of the key to the zip lines and teleporters. They're used for security purposes too. Some of our super astute observers may have even noticed in the kiting stream last week when we were in Kava Ward, the Tengu district, the bird race in Kantha, that they were using Jade bots to kind of help identify some Jade Brotherhood threats that were lingering in the area, and that's a part of Alan Hart. So there's a bunch of different uses, but I know players are really excited to learn about what all these things can do. So I'll pass it over to Ben, and we can just start digging into them a little bit.
Yeah, there's kind of three different big parts to the Jade bots. There's the in-world interactions that people can do around Kantha, stuff like Jade batteries, turrets, and so forth. There's the skills you get and the abilities you get from the mastery track, and then the big part for me is the actual equipment slots that JadeBot adds, power cores and the 2 different module slots.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to jump into all of those. I want to touch on first how you get started. How do you unlock this thing in the first place? And Indigo, this is a story step, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you start on the End of Dragon's story, eventually you will get to a pretty early on story step where you will get your own bot. One of our characters is going to lend one to you, no spoilers, and you're going to get to keep it. I feel like being the commander should come with some perks. So you get your own Jade bot, and it all just kind of unfolds from there. There's some really fun, as we'll talk about today, there's some super fun story-specific interactions that you'll have with the Jade bot, but they're super useful in so many different ways.
All right, so as we get ready to go through all of these details that Ben mentioned, Ben, where is this, just to get that first question out of the way, where are Jade bots, where can you use your Jade bots?
So most of the functions are all available in open worlds. Some of them are also functional in other areas, but it's on a kind of case-by-case basis. Some of the things obviously wouldn't work, we wouldn't want to work in PvP or Moses Rule, for example, and a few of the things we wouldn't really want to work in like strikes, raids, and fractals either. But open worlds, pretty much everything is functional, then everything else is case-by-case basis.
Okay, and we'll touch on some of those case-by-case things as we go. So let's start right over here with the first part, which is direct control. I'm going to come over to this JadeBot terminal and let you all talk about what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Oh.
Go ahead, Ben.
I was unhelpful there. I am sorry.
Yeah.
That is okay. We're all just super excited.
Yeah, so we have a few specific areas set up around the world for you to take direct control of your JadeBot. Because this is kind of some new tech, and we were a little conservative with it, so there's a few story instances where you can take direct control, and a few areas in the open world where you can take direct control. But then your JadeBot can fly around and do a bunch of stuff, like interact with these lanterns and stuff like that, or take screenshots.
Yeah, this is awesome for open world screenshots, just for getting like those beauty shots of the world. And I'm going to be a little bit careful not to go up too far. Ben, I will let you talk about this. It is a little bit limited. You can't completely traverse Kantha from a single terminal.
Yeah, we have a few boundaries in place to make sure you can't fly absolutely anywhere at this time.
There we go.
Just because there's just so many areas that you can probably get to that we don't want people to necessarily see. But it's a pretty, as you can see from this one, this area, the area is pretty large that you can fly around.
And I did just light up this Jade Lantern. This is, now Indigo, you talked about this with me earlier. This is kind of a training area, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we set up this Renown Heart as it's actually one of my favorite Renown Hearts because you're not really fighting. Well, there is fighting in it, possibly, but most importantly, it really just kind of helps you get into the motions of picking up Jade batteries, using them to light the lanterns. There's some zip lines in the area. A lot of the NPCs give you some cute little info on the Jade bots. When I was writing this event, I kind of wrote them all like Apple Genius Bar workers, so they're all super enthusiastic and want to tell you about Jade bots all the time. They're salespeople. They're doing their job. But yeah, there's a bunch of different activities unrelated to Jade bots. If you're not interested in that, there's also just kind of another Jade tech homage. There's some training panels too where you can fight some of the Jade mechs, which by the way are some of the most terrifying things in this game. They're super cute, they're friendly, but when they want to fight you, it's scary when they come running at you. But
It is
most importantly, yeah,
terrifying.
it's scary. I watched one like drop from the sky and land like a superhero and then him running at me the other day, and I'm like, that's gonna scream. Oh, it's very scary. But yeah, this whole area is it's just a gorgeous opulent garden that's just meant to really like encourage you to explore and get in your J-bot in the drone mode and look around. So lots of exciting stuff.
All right. So where are direct control terminals located? Where can players do this?
Yeah, so the I'll pass it to Ben in a sec. There's actually Ben, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, there's a couple hearts like this one, and then there's a couple areas with the personal story that you can interact with, and then there's one that I don't really want to talk about too much because it's a little bit of a spoiler. I think people will be surprised about it. Yeah, pretty limited right now. We may add more later depending on how things go.
And Indigo, you were going to say?
Oh, I was just gonna say it's one of my favorite things about these locations, even though right now it's quite limited using the panels in the drone areas. In both this area in the garden and then one of the other open world occurrences of it, there's just a really great opportunity to get to look at the environment and take some really beautiful screenshots and test the boundaries of how far you can fly J-bot.
All right. Well, let's go ahead. I'm like preparing for this next part. I'm getting up here as high as I can. Let's go through the mastery track, and then will you walk us through these as I show them off?
Yeah, we get 5 masteries. The first one you get is the glide booster that everybody's kind of seen on a lot of the promotional material. At its basic level, it just gives a real quick boost, straight up about right now. Well, you actually have the enhanced version, but so by default they don't go quite that high by default. But, it's just a fun way to get a little extra distance out of your glide. And if you're really good with the timing, like that, kind of practicing a little bit of going on the mount, gliding, boosting up, getting back on the mount to get that little extra altitude.
You can super take advantage of that then. All right, let's look at this. So that's the first one you get, and then the next one.
So multi-charge doesn't give you an actual skill. This allows you to carry more Jade energy charges. Kind of what those are is your Jade bot can store energy for interacting with objects in the world, like the turrets and the Jade twin teleporters and blue consoles. A lot of the stuff actually requires energy. So your Jade bot can gather that and then transfer it into these other objects to power them up.
Just picking up some charges there. All right.
And so what this mastery does is it gives you an extra, the ability to get an extra charge.
I have 4 now, so I've charged them all the way. All right. And let's go to JTech.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite ones, JTech Waypoint. Basically, you can put a waypoint anywhere in the open world. So if you're like me and really bad at jump puzzles, this will be really handy getting back. The one thing is there is a fairly lengthy cooldown, and you can only use it once. When you go back and use it, there's a little prompt that lets you know that you're about to consume the waypoint, and you won't be able to do another one for a little bit. Not super long, but you won't be able to like use it in spawn rush, boss rush, things like that.
Over and over and over.
Yeah, 'cause it behaves pretty much like any other waypoint where you're down and you wait and use it, it'll bring you back. But we don't want people to be able to obviously do that over and over again on a boss encounter.
That absolutely.
Yeah, and like I said, only available in open world, no PvP, world versus world, story instances, anything like that. Actually, break things pretty bad.
Actually, you know what? I do want to just back up because there is something that I am sure people have questions about. When we were talking about multi-charge and charging up your Jade bot, you, and Ben, you can confirm this for me, you will always have a battery, a way to charge available in the map where it is needed, correct? You're not going to have to travel halfway across the world to get a new charge.
No, they shouldn't be too far, and we've made the charges pretty plentiful. The one thing is that the J-bot charges won't stick with you on map movement. This is for a couple different reasons I won't go into here, but anywhere where you'll need one, you should be able to find one. Sometimes they're specifically limited. A lot of the story instances might specifically limit the number of charges in the map for puzzle reasons. But yeah, anywhere in the Camden maps, you should be able to regularly get charges.
All right. Okay, sorry for interrupting, but I did want to cover that question because we'll make sure we're telling all of you as much as we possibly can. So how about energy efficiency? Let's look at that one.
So energy efficiency lets your Jade bot get extra charges for batteries. Usually you just get one, it just lets you get another one. The other kind of cool thing it does is that on zip lines, your Jade bot will actually gather energy charges from the zip line. Now, you can use zip lines without charges. It's not something that costs you fee, but if you have that mastery, your Jade bot will actually gather charges while you zip.
This seems like a good place to talk a little bit about transportation and campus since we're on these zip lines.
Heck yeah, so there are the zip lines and teleporters all throughout Kansas to kind of help better society navigate these sprawling landscapes, which is especially pertinent in New Kaineng. Because the citizens, I mean, I'm sure that mount license for normal Kansas citizens are really expensive, so they need a way to be able to navigate all of these districts so much easier. But for the players specifically, it's a really fun way to kind of experience the verticality that's not really new to the mount, and it just takes, like Ben has said with a lot of people, you just pick up a charge, you can take it and zip. I think the zip I used in a lot of the VO for the area in the garden actually too, to sell people for zip lines. I did. I think one of them is like, zip, you're next meeting, zip, you get noodles for lunch, and I had a lot of fun writing this.
Okay, I love that. Yeah. All right. So that's energy efficiency. And let's go to the last one where I'd seen a whole lot of questions. Let's talk about rescue protocol and combat.
Yeah, I saw a lot of comments about this one. As an LE main, this is going to be probably one of my favorite ones because I spent way too much time in downstate. But as it's stated, rescue protocol is to let your Jade bot pull you back up when you break the death. It's on a fairly lengthy cooldown, so you can't spam it, but you can alter that cooldown later. This skill is also not available in fractals and raids and strikes. It is available anywhere open world and story instances.
But it just replaces that skill. And the thing about that is you don't have to use this. If this doesn't replace anything that already exists, this is an additional option that you have if you want to use that skill.
Yeah, it does go over your normal bandage skill, but it's just not properly. You don't have to use it. It isn't work on.
All right. If you two are ready, I want to move on to the part that I am super excited about, which is customization of your Jade bots. That's something that we talked about in the video, and it's something that I noticed a lot of you watching had called out, so I want to make sure that we give you all the details of what my inventory full of goodies is all about here. So I'm going to head over to this Jade bot workbench, and let's get started. With our Jade bot power core first, right Ben?
Yeah, so you get 3 inventory slots. You get a power core slot, and then what we collectively call modules, the sensor arrays and switch chips. The power core is what fictionally allows your bot to function. It needs a power core to do most anything. In addition to powering your modules and stuff like that, it also gives the user a vitality boost. You can see you have a tier 10, which is the max tier. It gives you 235 points of vitality. We don't have any other stats that you can get right now. It is something that we're considering, but something we'll be taking on the project later. And the next thing is... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I think we're probably going to say the same thing, but let's find out.
No, I was going to mention that if you don't want to use your Jade bot for whatever reason, all you really need to do is unequip your power core. I'll be really sad about it, but you can turn off pretty much all Jade bot functions by
Okay, yeah, that is true. If you do not love the cute little friend, but you want to fill out your mastery check because temptation exists, and I might be one of them. You just don't have to equip the power core. I do want to touch on, you don't have to, you will get a power core, and that's part of the method I've been talking about in a second. This is a stat increase, so we didn't want to lock people out of that. So you need to be level 80. You don't have to have End of Dragons. You're going to get the power core, and then you can touch on that a little more.
Yeah, because like I mentioned, this gives additional stats. We didn't want to gate it behind anything because we didn't want to make the people feel like you had to buy the expansion to get those extra stats. So while you won't get one for free if you don't have Jade bots unlocked, you don't have End of Dragons, they are trainable, so you can get them on the training post. You do have to be level 80 to equip them, but yeah, anybody level 80 can equip them, whether they have Jade bots or End of Dragons.
Perfect. All right, well, let's start looking at these modules and what you can do with them. We'll start with sensory arrays, and that unlocks as soon as you get your Jade bot, right?
Yeah, sensory arrays, you don't have to have a high tier power core to get in order to unlock that slot. And you'll get your first sensory array along with your Jade bot power core when you unlock your boost.
Okay, well, let's talk about what they are. I've got the scavenger protocols up first.
Yeah, so what the scavenger protocols do, you can basically command your bot to search enemies you kill for additional loot. So, like the one you had right there, Mother, if you have this equipped, every once in a while your Jade bot will scan it close and find a bunch of Mother. It's somewhat rare. We didn't want people to be just able to gather tons of extra resources by doing this, but getting a little bonus every once in a while definitely is pretty helpful, especially if you're trying to craft something that requires a lot of resources.
Yeah, and there are 6 of those sensory arrays available with the scavenger protocol, so you can kind of customize that and get exactly the kind of thing that you're after. All right, let's look at the next one, which is the recycler, something that I saw a lot of questions about too. So I'll let you run with that then.
Yeah, for the recyclers, basically if you have this equipped, your J-bot will be scanning for any really cheap junk items that you get, like the really low value stuff. And as you get it, it'll just transform it into whatever you ask it to. So in this case, Bloodstone Dust, Dragonite. I think what most people will probably end up using is you can get karma from it, or for me the most interesting thing is the Jade Slivers, because that's actually a new currency that you can go to a vendor for and get useful items from with these slivers.
Nice. Yeah, and this doesn't replace the things, it's kind of like the recipe protocol, it doesn't replace things you already have. This just ensures that the low value junk items turn into something that you specifically want, and we're giving you that choice.
Yeah, the higher value junk items, we didn't want to have it recycled, mainly because, well, for most cases, you'd probably rather have the gold when it's really high value. But, it's meant to be just the really small junk items.
All right, so that's those two. Those, let's see, recycler and scavenger protocols, Ben, where all are those available? Because this is one of those exceptions we talked about.
Yeah, those actually work in World versus World. That's kind of the one exception for things to work in World versus World. A lot of this other stuff doesn't. Like the power core stats are only available in PvE. They're not available in World versus World or PvP. But for the scavenger and recycler, there wasn't any reason why they shouldn't work in World versus World. And the strikes and fractals and all that, so they're definitely work there.
Awesome. All right, let's touch on these last couple, and then we will move on to the other half of this. So the first one in the sensory array, aside from that, is the Turtle Siege Enhancer.
Yeah, so the Siege Enhancer, for anybody who likes to be a gunner on the turtle mounts, if you equip one of these modules, you will get a damage boost to the bombardment skill. Like you'll notice, you have a tier 3 one here. There's 3 tiers. For the non-scavenger and the non-recycler modules, there's always 3 tiers.
Yeah, and I've got the tier 3. I am ready to make a mess, and I'm incredibly excited about it. Also, for your other mounts, the energy booster, same thing, the 3 tiers, right?
Yeah, 3 tiers. And this one, you'll get the tier 1 version of this story. This is probably what I'll mostly default when I'm not looking for loot, because this basically just lets your mount regenerate energy faster. Do all the cool movement mechanics a little bit more often.
Okay. All right, so that is the sensory arrays that we have available. We talked about the 10 tiers of power core. Once you have a tier 6 power core, you will unlock the service chips, which make a Jade bot even more versatile. And I will then run us through each of these.
Yeah, we have, right now we have 4 different types of service chip, each with 3 tiers, like the other ones. The one you have right now, the glide boost, that's one that lets you basically increase the height that your Jade bot can boost you up. Tier 3, you go pretty significantly higher than standard glide boost.
Now, just to be super clear, even if you don't have this particular service chip equipped, you still get that glider boost because it's part of the mastery track. This just enhances it, right?
Right. Yeah, this is just an enhancement to the base one because the base one is, while it's fun, it's pretty limited in general.
Okay. All right. Let's touch on these other 3. The Skiff Supercharger.
So you probably all saw the Skiff Supercharger in
Yeah.
the promotional video that we put out. It's a real fun one if you plan to be doing a lot of boating around on your skiff. Pretty straightforward, just increases the base speed of your skiff. You can get going real quick. You have, especially with a tier 3, going max speed, all your boat masteries, and then use the turbo boost. You go fast enough that you can actually beach yourself with the skiff, which is actually kind of a fun way to dismount rather than just a normal dismount.
Yeah, it's efficient.
Yeah.
Every
Just
time you
drive
talk
right
about
on
that,
it.
I laugh. Because all I can picture is a player character, like, beaching his skiff, throwing the keys to the valet, and, like, strutting away after leaving just destruction in their wake.
Yeah, that's how I enter every single event.
Right? And I can't wait to see players actually making this happen, Ben, now that you have explained how this can be done. Let's make a mess. All right. Next up is the Rescue Protocol Recharge. And Ben, you mentioned cooldown. This helps with that a little bit.
Yeah, the base cooldown on Rescue Protocol is 10 minutes. You can shave time off that with these Rescue Protocol modules. This is definitely one in combat I'll probably use because, like I said, I'm an Ellie and I end up in downstate quite often. So you can get it down to 6 minutes with the tier 3.
All right. And finally, the Treasure Hunter Protocol.
The Treasure Hunter Protocol basically has your Jade bot scanning for treasure chests in the world and drawing their location on your map. The higher tiers give a larger radius. It's very handy. And to make it clear, it's not actually spawning the chest, it's telling you where chests that already exist are. The one cool thing is this works on any chest in the game, so we did a pretty concerted effort to try to mark every chest, even in older parts of Tyria, so this should work there. It was a kind of a hand process. If you do find a treasure chest that doesn't mark, let me know and I'll get it added. Yeah, it makes finding treasure a lot easier because I'm not the type of person who really likes to do the search and find type of thing. I just like somebody to tell me where it is and I'll just go get it. So this is pretty helpful if you want to find those chests.
And you are the person who spent a lot of time looking for these chests, right? So I feel like you're done searching for chests for the event until the end of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I went
Ben's
through
like,
pretty
"I'll
much
just do it quick."
everything marked as a chest in the game. I basically altered over the past few months. That being said, sometimes we name things weird, so if it wasn't named chest, I might have missed it.
Let us know if you find one that the Jade bot did not find. All right, so that's your customization. One more note on the modules. These are all craftable and tradable, right?
Yeah, you basically, the first tiers, I think they're all on this vendor, but the ones after that will require crafting research, and then the tier 3 ones actually require both crafting research and for you to get a loot drop from the world. So there's specific monsters that will drop specific pieces for the tier 3 versions of the recipes.
All right, and then
Or for
to upgrade.
3 versions of the modules, yeah.
Yeah. All right. To upgrade these, so you need some random drops. Keep an eye on what you're rounding up as you're out in the world doing the damage.
Yeah.
All right. So there's our walkthrough of Jade bots. There are a couple of other questions that I do want to touch on and make sure that you all get the answers to those that you wanted. Can I hide, if I don't want a sea of Jade bots in front of me, can I hide other players' Jade bots?
You can't hide other people's Jade bots. We purposely one of the reasons why their JBot isn't up all of the time is that we realized how messy it would make things look. So your JBot pretty much only takes or only spawns in when it's taking a specific action, like you're having it gather power from a battery or you're using a zip line. The one thing like you can do is that you can, like we said, you can disable your own through removing the power core, but the kind of interesting thing, one of the reasons why the JBot isn't up all the time is we're concerned about server performance of having another entity spawn. So we actually, and this might be revealing a little bit too much, but we actually fake most of the JBot animations with effects. It's not actual things spawning in the world to make it a little bit easier on the server.
Okay.
So we kind of invented a new art pipeline.
That works. Like, all right, so it's kind of a skill effect. So while you can't hide other people's Jade bots, we did keep in mind that they don't need to be out there in the world all the time, constantly. So yeah, if they're actively doing an action, or if, like I'm doing right now, if they're in direct control mode, you can see them. Otherwise, it's not going to be Jade bot world as far as the eye can see. And Ben, you touched on this earlier. If you don't want to use the Jade bot at all, just unequip the power core and it will not be a thing for you.
Yep,
So,
exactly.
oh my gosh, she's dancing. Ah! Sorry,
Yeah,
that was
Jade
completely
bot's
beside the point, but he did a little dance. All right, and I have one more question. Since you need the Jade bot workbenches to switch out your modules, where are those located?
Currently, they're just in Cantha. That might change later on. Indigo can kind of talk about maybe the potential future around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're mostly in Cantha right now, and that's just because, I mean, Cantha's been closed off for the last 250 years, so Jade technology isn't going to be present in the rest of Tyria yet. But it's definitely a discussion that we're starting to explore and what the story looks like in a post-End of Dragons world. I know that I'm really specifically excited to see what Char and Asuran's technology do, not just with the Jade bots, but with the hollow projectors, and we're going to start to see kind of what happens as that technology becomes more widespread. So not yet, but soon.
Perfect. All right, and the incredibly important question, can I name my Jade bots?
Unfortunately, because the Jade bots are mostly skill effects, and we can't name skill effects.
Right.
We didn't put that feature in. But as I've told people, you can name it in your heart, decide what you want to
Name
call
it in your heart.
That's what it is.
Oh god.
I'm explaining that they're skill effects, but I thought I would touch on it. All right. So I hope you all enjoyed your overview of the Jade bots and how they work and how you can get your very own. Ben and Indigo, thank you both so much for spending time to walk us through all of this. And thanks to all of you for hanging out with us today and watching and learning all about Jade bots. You are 17 days away from your very own Jade bots. End of Dragons is out on the 28th. Today is the 11th. We are so close. Pre-purchase is available now. If you want to hop over to the End of Dragons website, pre-purchase the expansion, get ready for your Jade bot, and scoop up some cool in-game rewards now that you can use in the live game, including the title and the cape and the weapon chest. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Next week, we have our audio live stream with composer Drew McLean. Drew McLean. It's been a long day. McLean Deemer and our audio director. I hear Indigo laughing and then I'm done. Drew's like, man, how long have you known me? And our audio director, Drew Katie. They're going to be joining us to talk about the audio side of Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons. So come hang out with us next week. I will see you then, and thank you all. Bye.
They're pretty neat though, not gonna lie. Nice. Jesus, what the fuck? Oh, I see. Yeah.